Amanda McGee, born on August 29, 1991, in the United States. She was the daughter of Terence Charles McGee, commonly known as Terry, and that is how we will refer to him in this video. Terry pursued a career in the moving company Knox Carthage. As for Amanda's mother, the scant references available suggest that she struggled with drug addiction, which led to numerous conflicts with her husband. Eventually, when Amanda was only 4 years old, the couple separated, and it appears that Amanda never had further contact with her mother. A few years later, Terry met Elisa Jing H.W., a gentle woman employed as an accountant for a company producing refractory coating paints. Their close relationship quickly blossomed into love. Amanda bonded wonderfully with Elisa, who treated her with kindness and understanding. Elisa's cheerful disposition complemented Terry's more stringent character, providing Amanda with the maternal affection she needed, especially since Terry had a rather stern demeanor. After a year of their relationship, Elisa moved in with Terry and Amanda, transforming their home into a warm and inviting environment. A few years later, the couple married, officially forming the McGee family of 3. Unfortunately, as time passed, tranquility was elusive. Terry's strict nature often conflicted with his daughter's emerging desire to enjoy typical teenage experiences. Amanda, a charming and popular young girl with a love for soccer, showed a pronounced interest in dating and forming intimate relationships from a very young age. Terry was entirely disapproving of Amanda's burgeoning independence, and although Elisa attempted to mitigate the friction as much as possible, she struggled to balance the teenage girl's emerging rebelliousness with appropriate boundaries. The strained relationship between Amanda and her father worsened when a teacher intercepted a letter between Amanda and her then-boyfriend, which mentioned plans to run away together. Other accounts suggest the letter contained allegations of mistreatment by Terry at home. Given the seriousness of the letter's content, the teacher handed it over to the school's administration, which then informed Amanda's representatives and reported the matter to Tennessee Children's Services. An investigation ensued, concluding that the family's issues were typical of the tensions between a teenager seeking freedom and a strict parent enforcing rules, leading to the case being closed. The next 2 years saw occasional conflicts between father and daughter, which Elisa endeavored to diffuse or manage. These domestic disputes contrasted sharply with the serene and picturesque community of Solway, Tennessee, where the McGee family resided. By 2007, Terry, now 60 years old, had retired after over 2 decades working at the moving company, where he had risen to the position of vice president. In May of that year, a significant development occurred when Amanda persuaded her father to allow her to visit her friend Rebecca Dugan, who lived nearby. That evening, Amanda met a young man named Andrew B.R., who, while not particularly sociable or conventionally attractive, captured her attention. Andrew, then 21 years old, intrigued Amanda with his independence, despite lacking detailed information about his family background. Although no details about Andrew's family or background emerged, it was known that he had a stable job in the construction sector, owned a good motorcycle, and also had a car. During that evening at Rebecca's house, Amanda and Andrew engaged in extensive conversation. Amanda, misleading Andrew about her age by claiming she was 17, found that he was not accustomed to receiving female attention. He made considerable efforts to connect with her. From that point on, a whirlwind romance ensued. To maintain regular contact with her new boyfriend, Amanda repeatedly fabricated stories about her whereabouts and activities. They shared their familial issues with each other, and Amanda played the role of a damsel in distress, alleging that her father was abusive, both physically and mentally. This supposed plight quickly ignited Andrew's protective instincts. Within a couple of weeks, Andrew proposed to Amanda, and she accepted. However, their relationship faced a significant hurdle. Amanda's family would never approve of such a union due to the age difference, Amanda being only 15 and Andrew 21. Consequently, they decided to elope. When Amanda went missing and no one knew her whereabouts, her parents immediately reported her as a missing person. To their surprise, a week after the elopement, a woman contacted Terry, informing him that she knew where Amanda was. This woman was Andrew's grandmother, at whose house the couple was staying. She may have had reservations about the relationship or feared potential legal trouble due to the missing persons report. Terry and Elisa promptly went to search for Amanda, who was only a few kilometers away from their home. Despite their efforts, The young lovers remained defiant, and Amanda disappeared again a few days later. This time, Terry chose not to involve the police. Instead, leveraging Andrew's grandmother's cooperation, he obtained the young man's phone number and directly informed Andrew that he was aware of Amanda's location. Terry gave Andrew a strict ultimatum, demanding that he return Amanda to their home within 30 minutes, or he would ensure that both were apprehended by the police before the deadline expired. The fugitive couple arrived at the Mcghee residence in Andrew's car, where they found Terry in a state of rage, waiting at the entrance with a gun in hand. As soon as the car came to a stop, Elisa quickly pulled Amanda inside the house, while Terry confronted Andrew with intense hostility. During the confrontation, Terry demanded to see Andrew's driver's license, which confirmed that he was indeed 21 years old. Terry took photos of both the license and the car's license plate, then threatened Andrew, warning him that if Amanda disappeared again, he would report him to the authorities for statutory rape. Terry and Elisa hoped that the threat of imprisonment for alleged sexual abuse would deter Andrew and put an end to Amanda's repeated attempts to run away. However, they were gravely mistaken. Unbeknownst to Amanda's parents, despite the relationship having started only 2 months prior, things had escalated quickly. Just a few days earlier, Amanda had revealed to Andrew that she was pregnant. The news was a bittersweet and distressing blow to Andrew. He was torn between his fear of imprisonment and his desire to stay with Amanda and the unborn child. Amanda, having anticipated this dilemma, devised a more radical plan. She believed it was the only solution to their problems and would ultimately allow them to be together and raise their child. Andrew, though skeptical about the drastic measure, was persuaded by Amanda's conviction that this was the only way to resolve their issues and secure their future together. Amanda wanted to ensure that she could keep her unborn child, as Andrew had no alternative plan to offer. They began devising a strategy, which included acquiring a gun. Amanda took it upon herself to steal a firearm from her father and enlisted her neighbor and best friend, Rebecca, to deliver the weapon to Andrew, who was known to act as a courier between the lovers. Rebecca delivered the package without inspecting its contents. When Andrew opened it in her presence and revealed the gun inside, Rebecca was shocked. She asked him what he intended to do with the weapon. With a slight smile, Andrew explained that the purpose was to eliminate Terry so that he could freely continue his relationship with Amanda. After their conversation, Rebecca decided she needed to inform Amanda's father about the plan. Convinced that such actions were unacceptable, she went to Amanda's house, where she expressed her concerns and informed Amanda that she would disclose the plot to Terry. Rebecca argued that the plan was insane and that Amanda had exploited her trust by using her to transport the weapon. Amanda reassured Rebecca that she and Andrew had reconsidered their actions and recognized how extreme and desperate their situation had become due to Amanda's pregnancy. They were terrified of losing the baby. After much discussion, Rebecca reluctantly believed her friend's explanation but stressed that they could not proceed with their plan. Unfortunately, Amanda's reassurances were false. On Friday, June 29, 2007, the situation took a darker turn. The morning began as usual at the Mcghee residence. Elisa left early for work, while Amanda was awake and Terry remained asleep in his room, as he was accustomed to staying up late and sleeping in the morning. Amanda called Andrew to inform him that he could come over. When he arrived, she let him in, and during their brief conversation, Andrew expressed his uncertainty about proceeding with the plan. However, Amanda, convinced that this was the only way they could stay together and raise their child, managed to persuade him to go through with it. Andrew, though hesitant, decided to execute the plan. He instructed Amanda to lock herself in her room, turn on the radio, and increase the volume. He then approached Terry's bedroom door. Terry was sleeping on his side, facing away from the entrance. Uncertain and distressed, Andrew decided to call a friend named Christopher Kirkland, with whom he had previously shared the details of the plan. He asked whether he should shoot Terry in the back, as he felt he couldn't bring himself to look at Terry's face. Christopher, unable to offer guidance due to being at work, ended the call shortly. After a few moments of indecision, Andrew stepped into the room and fired a shot into the back of Terry's head. Terry's body jerked, but the shot did not cause immediate death. Instead, Terry emitted a series of strange and distressing sounds. Andrew then left the room to find Amanda and inform her that he had completed the first part of their plan. Andrew then called Elisa at work, expressing his love and inquiring about her expected return time. Elisa mentioned she would be home around 4 p.m. After a brief conversation, and with ample time before Elisa's arrival, Andrew and Amanda decided to leave the house to find breakfast. Meanwhile, there were still sounds coming from the master bedroom, where Terry was clinging to life, caught between life and death. Terry continued to oscillate between life and death for a while, but eventually the sounds from the master bedroom ceased. Andrew called Christopher again, asking him to come over and see what he had done. Christopher arrived, briefly observed Terry's body, and after a short conversation with the couple, details of which remain undisclosed, he left without reporting the incident. Later, Andrew admitted that there was a brief discussion in which he questioned whether it was truly necessary to kill Elisa. Despite his reservations, Amanda insisted that Elisa had to be eliminated to prevent her from implicating them due to their history of violent behavior and arguments. At around 4 p.m., Elisa returned home. Upon opening the door, she was confronted by Andrew, who was brandishing the gun. By then, Amanda was already in her room, holding the gun and instructing Elisa to sit on the couch so they could talk. Shocked and fearful, Elisa hesitated before asking Andrew if he intended to take her life. Andrew confirmed that he had no choice but to do so. Instinctively, Elisa tried to flee towards the kitchen, but Andrew fired 2 shots, one hitting her in the back and the other in her arm. Elisa fell, nearly unconscious, onto the kitchen floor. With their plan executed as intended, the couple took Elisa's debit card from her wallet and left the house as night began to fall. They went to a friend's house and explained to Andrew's father that they needed a place to stay. They told him that Amanda, who they claimed was 19 and pregnant, had been kicked out of their home, presenting themselves as victims in need of refuge. According to the man himself, his good heart would not allow him to leave the children on the street. That night, Friday, June 29th, after murdering Terry and Elisa, Amanda and Andrew went out with friends to a bar. The following day, they took a ride to the mountains on Andrew's motorcycle and later visited a local shopping mall where they used Elisa's debit card to buy maternity clothes and other items for the baby. Sources indicate that on Saturday, they returned to the crime scene to check if the bodies were emitting any detectable odor and even considered bathing them in bleach, though they ultimately decided against it. While the perpetrators were enjoying themselves, Elisa's family grew increasingly concerned. Elisa had planned to visit her sister, who was about to give birth to twins, but she did not show up. Her family attempted to contact her without success. Given her busy schedule and numerous responsibilities, they initially thought she might have postponed the visit due to exhaustion from work. However, when Elisa failed to appear the next day and her relatives' calls went unanswered, they became more alarmed. The phone eventually rang as if it had been turned off. With everyone eagerly awaiting the birth of the twins, Elisa's absence was somewhat overlooked until Sunday, July 1st. When Elisa had still not appeared, it became apparent that something was seriously wrong. Concerned relatives visited the Mcghee residence to investigate. They knocked on the door repeatedly, but received no response. Observing the house from the outside, they peered through the windows and were horrified to discover Elisa's body lying on the floor. Elisa fue encontrada en el suelo de la cocina, cubierta de manchas rojizas. Inmediatamente se llamó a las autoridades, y en cuestión de minutos llegaron patrullas y oficiales de policía que forzaron la entrada para acceder a la residencia. Tras ellos, llegó una familia de Elisa. Los oficiales confirmaron que el cuerpo de la mujer en la cocina no presentaba signos vitales. Al inspeccionar el resto de la casa, encontraron a Terry también muerto en su cama. Luego, procedieron a abrir la puerta del dormitorio de Amanda, temiendo lo peor. Un suspiro de alivio se escuchó al ver que la habitación estaba vacía. Aunque la primera suposición de la familia fue que la joven podría haber sido secuestrada, su paradero permanecía desconocido en ese momento. Poco después, llegaron equipos de asistencia para trasladar los cuerpos a la morgue. A partir de ese momento, la tarea dentro de la casa quedó en manos de los investigadores, quienes comenzaron una búsqueda meticulosa de evidencia para esclarecer lo sucedido. Lo primero que se hizo evidente fue que no había signos de lucha en la casa, nada parecía estar fuera de lugar, ni hogar ni faltaba nada. Las entradas no mostraban signos de haber sido forzadas. Los investigadores hablaron con los familiares presentes en la escena, preguntando sobre la posible existencia de algún conocido que hubiera tenido un altercado con la familia o algún tipo de disputa personal. Fue entonces cuando surgieron los problemas que Terry había tenido con el novio de su hija. Sin embargo, el camino para descubrir lo ocurrido se hizo mucho más claro cuando los oficiales vieron el movimiento policial en la casa de Amanda. Su amiga Rebecca, consternada, se dio cuenta de que el plan criminal que ella había descubierto y que Amanda le había jurado que no se llevaría a cabo, había sido ejecutado. Molesta y conmovida por la tragedia, se acercó inmediatamente a los oficiales para contarles lo que sabía. Rebecca approached the officials to tell them everything she knew. She explained how her friend had unknowingly instructed her to give Terry's gun to Andrew and confessed the young man's plan to eliminate his girlfriend's father. She recounted how, when she went to the M's house, determined to inform Terry of everything, Amanda assured her that she had reconsidered and abandoned the plan. Rebecca, regrettably believing her friend, had kept silent. The young woman also stated that it wasn't the first time Amanda had claimed to be pregnant. She had made similar claims on 2 previous occasions, and had even told everyone at school. Some reports indicate that Andrew had informed Rebecca of their planned location, while others suggest that law enforcement officials used the couple's cell phone signals to locate them. Regardless of the source of the information, on Sunday night at 7:30 p.m., the friend's house was surrounded by police while the family was in the backyard preparing a barbecue with Amanda and Andrew. A police officer entered the residence and approached Amanda to ask for her identification. The young girl responded that she didn't have it with her, and when asked her age, she said she was 15. The homeowner's face turned pale, and he nearly fainted. Ultimately, without any resistance or complications, Amanda and Andrew were arrested. Shortly thereafter, the police contacted Amanda's relatives to inform them that she had been located, was safe, and had not been abducted, and that no one had taken her away from her home against her will. The rest of the news was difficult for those close to her to digest. The officers indicated that Amanda was being investigated as at least an accomplice in the fatal attacks on her father and stepmother, who, truthfully, was practically the only mother figure Amanda had ever known. Elisa's family was in complete shock. They could not believe that the girl they had watched grow up and considered their own daughter could be capable of such a monstrous act. Meanwhile, crime scene teams were examining the residence and later seized Andrew's car, where they discovered a .32 caliber handgun. It was confirmed to be Amanda's father's weapon, which had been used in the murders of the couple. This discovery led to a quick confession and presented a dilemma for the justice system. Amanda was taken to a juvenile detention center, while Andrew was brought to the interrogation room at the county sheriff's office to determine what had motivated the young couple to commit the horrific crimes. Surprisingly, Andrew was not evasive during questioning. He recounted in great detail what had happened, explaining that a few weeks earlier, they had learned of Amanda's pregnancy and feared what Terry might do if he found out. Andrew told the officers that he and Amanda had previously had an altercation with Terry, during which Terry had threatened him with a gun. Terry had warned that if anything happened to his daughter, he would do more than just call the police. After the pregnancy and Terry's explicit threat, the couple decided to act preemptively, fearing that Amanda's father would immediately incriminate them if he discovered their plans. The young man recounted that his life had not been easy. His birth came after his mother, a 14-year-old teenager, had been raped, and all he knew of his biological father was that he was in a prison in Ohio. Andrew explained that he had struggled with anxiety issues. Although the reviews did not clarify who had been responsible for his upbringing, it was known that his panic attacks led to him being homeschooled. This arrangement changed when he entered high school, where he could not handle the pressure and subsequently dropped out, leading to his expulsion from home. There was no clear explanation for how he had acquired enough money to afford a nice car and a motorcycle. However, one source suggested that he had received some form of inheritance while in juvenile detention. Amanda was also interrogated. Although initially reluctant to speak, she eventually corroborated Andrew's confession after being informed that he would be charged with 2 counts of murder. She confirmed that her primary goal was to stay with Andrew and raise their baby, as this time she was genuinely pregnant. A couple of days later, Christopher, 23, was also arrested. The results of the forensic examinations on the bodies of Terry and his wife were subsequently released. Specialists confirmed that Terry had endured a prolonged agony. The shot to the back of his head did not cause instantaneous death. He remained conscious and in pain for approximately 2 hours. In fact, the bullet was not lodged in his body but was found in the bed, indicating that it had travelled an irregular path and was expelled while Terry was coughing and struggling to breathe. The bullet was not found inside Terry's body, it was discovered in the bed. Specialists concluded that the bullet had taken an irregular path, eventually ending up in his mouth, and was expelled while Terry was coughing and struggling to breathe. The forensic examination of Elisa's remains confirmed that she had sustained 2 gunshot wounds to the back, one of which was also through the chest, piercing her lungs and heart. The coroner estimated that her death was not immediate and that Elisa may have survived for approximately 3 minutes after being shot. Andrew was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and would remain in jail without bail at Knox County Jail until his trial. Amanda, being a juvenile, could only be charged with 2 counts of delinquency related to first-degree murder. When informed of her charges in court, she did not appear to be affected. Christopher, 23, was charged as an accessory after the fact, with bail set at $50,000 on July 3, just days after his arrest. Within days of being arrested, Amanda wrote a letter to Andrew filled with declarations of love, expressing her hope that he would not have to spend much time in prison. She promised him that when she turned 18 or 21 and was released from juvenile detention, she would visit him frequently. In that letter, Amanda made a statement that would later work against her. She expressed no remorse for the crimes committed, only regret that they had been discovered and imprisoned. Upon reviewing Amanda's statements and considering her behavior following the events, such as going to a bar, riding a motorcycle to buy maternity and baby items with Elisa's money, among other questionable actions, the prosecution concluded that the punishment available for a minor was insufficient. Consequently, a request was made for her to be tried as an adult. 7 months after her arrest, with no family member stepping forward to pay her bail, a hearing was held to present the prosecution's request. During the hearing, Andrew testified that Amanda had pressured him into killing her parents, while Amanda herself claimed she was frightened, depressed, and near childbirth. The judge asked for a moment to deliberate. When the juvenile court magistrate returned, it was evident he had been crying, but after taking his seat, he announced his decision. Amanda would be tried as an adult, facing a possible life sentence with the possibility of parole. Christopher was confirmed in his charge of accessory to murder for failing to intervene or alert the authorities. He was reminded that his silence did not prevent Elisa's death. Elisa's adoptive father addressed the press, attempting to explain his son's behavior. He revealed that Christopher had been diagnosed with attention deficit disorder shortly after his marriage to Christopher's mother and had been sent to a Baptist school to distance him from her influence. The man explained that his stepson had been sent to a Baptist school to distance him from bad influences, but as he grew older, it became increasingly difficult to avoid such encounters. He acknowledged that his stepson should have reported seeing Terry's lifeless body to the authorities and admitted that he should have been held accountable. However, he requested that the court consider his stepson's background and be lenient in their judgment. Christopher's bail was set at $1,000, which was paid, allowing him to await trial at home. Fate took its course when, on March 14, 2008, Amanda gave birth to a healthy baby girl, whom she named Serenity. The baby was immediately taken into custody by social services and was later placed for adoption later that year. On December 1, 2008, a hearing was held to determine Andrew's fate. Despite having confessed to his role in the crimes against Terry and Elisa during police interrogation, Andrew pleaded not guilty to both charges of first-degree murder at the start of the trial. The The prosecution argued that Andrew ended the McGee couple's lives because he had impregnated Amanda and feared imprisonment for sexual abuse when her parents discovered the situation. The defense contended that Andrew was lovesick and manipulated by Amanda's claims that her parents were abusive. While the defense did not dispute Andrew's role in the crimes or the evident premeditation, they asserted that much of the plan originated with Amanda. This assertion was supported by the investigators' statements detailing incriminating evidence and the specialists' reports on the deaths and Terry's prolonged agony. Andrew himself took the stand to testify. On the witness stand, Andrew testified that he had always been a socially awkward and impressionable boy who had struggled to earn the affection of a beautiful young woman. He admitted to being the one who pulled the trigger, but claimed that he acted under pressure from his girlfriend. According to his testimony, Amanda had portrayed her father as a constant abuser and outlined the dangers that their child would face in such an environment. She told him that if he truly loved her and wanted to be with her and their baby, he needed to end Terry's life. Andrew stated that his initial response was that he could not commit such an act, but Amanda kissed him and urged him to do it for their sake as a couple and for the sake of their child. He told the court that at that moment he was unable to think clearly and was overwhelmed by confusion. Despite his reservations, he ultimately could not refuse. He detailed that the entire plan was devised by Amanda, and on the day before the events, he received numerous calls from her reiterating the plan. Andrew recounted that when Elisa arrived at the house, he asked her to sit down, hoping she would use her phone to call the police. Instead, the terrified woman fled to the kitchen, where he shot her twice. Amanda then approached him, laughing and repeating the phrase "together forever." Andrew concluded his testimony by apologizing to the relatives of the deceased couple. When Amanda took the stand, she presented a markedly different account. Although she confirmed that she had described her father as an abuser to her boyfriend, she claimed that Andrew made decisions based solely on her narrative. Amanda said that Andrew was very angry and inquired about what she wanted him to do with Terry. Amanda had merely told Andrew to do something, but he interpreted this as a request to remove her father from the scene. Rebecca Dugan also testified, explaining how Amanda used her to obtain the gun for Andrew. After learning about the criminal plan from Andrew, Rebecca was prepared to inform the girl's parents. However, Amanda convinced her that they had abandoned the dangerous idea, and Rebecca believed her. Christopher, the accused accomplice, also took the stand. He testified that he was aware of the couple's plan to kill the McGee couple and confirmed that Andrew had called him to ask if he should shoot Terry in the back. Christopher's response was that he needed to return to work, and he ended the call. He later arrived at the scene and saw Terry's lifeless body. Although he knew that the same fate was planned for Elisa, he did nothing to prevent it. Christopher claimed that the decision seemed to be made by Andrew, who was directing the plan, and he got the impression that Amanda did not want to be involved. He also testified that Andrew attempted to get Amanda's help in disposing of the bodies by pouring bleach on them. 2 mental health experts were called to discuss the defendant's state of mind at the time of the events. However, neither could conclusively determine that Andrew lacked the mental capacity to act with premeditation. After the jury deliberated, they returned with the verdict just 30 minutes later. Minutes later, the jury returned with a verdict finding Andrew Brian Mann guilty of both counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced shortly thereafter to 2 life sentences to be served consecutively, as determined by the judge. Amanda's turn to face her fate came the following year. By July 2009, she had already reached a plea bargain with the prosecution. At her hearing in Knox County Court, 17-year-old Amanda admitted her involvement in the deaths of her father and stepmother. Under the terms of the plea agreement, she pleaded guilty to 2 lesser charges of second-degree murder. This agreement spared the victims' families from the trauma of a trial. After her admission of guilt, the judge sentenced Amanda McGee to 25 years in prison for Elisa's death and 20 years for Terry's death, with the sentences to be served consecutively. This meant Amanda would face a total of 45 years in prison, although she could apply for parole after serving 8% of her sentence, which would be in 2015. Andrew's attempt to appeal his sentence was unsuccessful, as reported by My Crime Library. Amanda's appeal in 2018 also failed. As of the time of making this video, Amanda McGee is serving her sentence at the Deborah Johnson Rehabilitation Center in Nashville, Tennessee. Her release date is set for June 30th, 2049, by which time she will be 58 years old. According to the current docket, there is no scheduled date for a parole hearing. Animan is being held at the Morgan County Correctional Facility, with a release date set for June 30th, 2049, after serving 2 consecutive life sentences. As for Christopher Kirkland, we could not find information regarding his specific sentence. However, it is known that he reached a plea agreement with the prosecution, pleading guilty to aiding and abetting. In exchange, he received procedural benefits for his cooperation and testimony during the trial. The investigation leaves many unanswered questions about the motivations behind these heinous crimes. What could have driven 2 young men, who had less than perfect but otherwise acceptable lives, to commit such atrocities? Was it a desire for freedom, strict discipline, personality disorders, a lack or excess of affection, or genetic factors? Perhaps it was a combination of several factors. Regardless, it is clear that these issues could have been addressed, and the tragic deaths of 2 innocent people could have been avoided. Well, dear audience, we have reached the end of today's case. We would greatly appreciate your comments and thoughts, as your opinions on the cases are very important to us. Dear audience, thank you for joining us today. We would greatly appreciate your comments and opinions on this case, as your feedback is important to us. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with anyone who might be interested. Until the next criminal investigation, goodbye and take care.